Good morning, afternoon, and evening, guys. You're locked into Conscious Minds TV with myself, Deveji. And today, my very special guest is a very good friend and amazing astrologer, Erin Wage. We've done many shows before. You can check them out on my channel as well. We've done 3 previous shows as well. And today is a show for me to catch up with Sister Erin and see what she's been doing in the astrology world, and also she has some stuff to share with us about medical astrology as well. So I'm really looking forward to the show. Thanks for joining me, Erin. It's good to catch up. How you been?
Likewise, Mem. It's always so good to catch up with you. I've been good. All the craziness in the world is just pretty much entertaining at this point. So pretty good. Yeah.
Before we get into the chat, let people know where they can get in contact with you or check out your work, or if you have a website or your social media links.
Yeah, I'm on, the main ones. I'm on Facebook, which I don't use very often. Please don't send me Facebook messages because I just won't see them. But I post all my stuff there, just Erin Wage on Facebook. And my website is really the best way to contact me, which is erinwageastrology.com, ERINWAAGE.com. And then I've also got my YouTube channel just under Erin Wage, and Instagram. I've got a strange Instagram handle, which is called Imaginal Cell. You want me to tell you what that means? What the Imaginal Cell is?
If you like.
Because I know people are curious. They're like, what is this? It's there's a really, really good author / biologist by the name of Bruce Lipton, who coined the term imaginal cell. And what it is it's when a caterpillar goes into the cocoon and is turning into a butterfly, almost all the cells completely die. In fact, they commit suicide. The cells kill themselves by choice, at least according to this biologist. And very few of the cells will stay alive. They even try to get the other ones. They're like, come on, buddy, stay alive with us. And that very few amount of cells are what actually mutate into a different kind of cell to become the butterfly. And they're called imaginal cells. And I put that on my Instagram handle so many years ago now. I think it was like 2013 or something, because I knew the world was going through an extremely powerful transformational process. And I wanted to be one of those imaginal cells that made it through.
Interesting, 2013, Erin, because that's when I started my personal transformation. That was my Saturn return in 2013.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yes, the last time we spoke, I think it was on my birthday when me, you, and Lily did the show together.
Yep.
Yeah, we spoke about astrology and astrotheology. If any of you guys want to check that out, you can check that out on my channel. Just check my videos out. But shortly after that, if I'm not mistaken, you got invited to speak at an astrology conference in Mexico with our mutual friend Philip Daniel Miles. Give us a bit of insight on how you got approached for that, and how you got involved in that, and how you found speaking there, and who were the other astrology speakers. They'll be good to find out a bit of info on how that went.
Yeah, that was one of my most favorite experiences ever. First of all, I love Mexico. I don't know what it is. I just vibe with that place. Every part of Mexico I've ever been to. This was specifically in Tulum. It was called Astro Tulum. And they're going to do another one this year, probably in January. And I've been invited to speak at that one as well. Wow. It was fantastic. I've been to one more since then, but I've been to 4 pretty big astrology conferences, and this one was smaller, but was by far the best. It was just such good speakers. The headliner was Mr. Santos Bonacci, which we all love and adore because of his wisdom. And also Philip Daniel Miles is definitely one of my favorite astrologers. He really takes things to depth that, just fascinates me. His passion for astrology just blows my mind. And I just honor that. But yeah, it was it was just a really good time connecting with like-minded people. And, you know, some people, there was actually a Mayan astrologer there as well. Oh gosh, I forget her name. Maybe it'll come to me at the end of the show here. It was really cool to see somebody with a different approach to astrology. It was kind of a trip too, because I learned that in Mayan astrology, they don't use the time or the location. It's just the birth date. Is that a trip?
So they don't have a birth chart, I guess. They just go by what planet was in what sign. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess so. It was
It's
just
more of like a general.
yeah,
So, for example, if you had the sun in Aries, then that would just generally be in your first house, I guess.
yeah.
By default, that's how I'm imagining it, if that makes
I guess so. I guess so. But yeah, it was a trip. She was awesome. The whole thing was really cool and just, you know, very, very, how do I explain this? Just people that are just open to completely, you know, new information, stuff that is kind of against the flow of things, a little bit different, but it was great. It was really cool. And not only that, but I was just really, like kind of finishing up a certain program with the medical astrology. So I got to bring a little bit of that into my talk, and yeah, that was just a good time.
Yeah. What I love about listening to other astrologers and watching other astrologers is, and what I love about astrology as a whole is that, like, I love everyone's got their own, everyone's so unique with how they read astrology or their techniques or how they see things. And that's what I love about it. And like when I listen to other people, because it's like they'll say something and I'll be like, oh wow, I didn't see it that way, but it makes total sense. Or sometimes you'll give someone an idea and they'll be like, oh yeah, like I didn't see it that way and whatever. And that's why I always say to people, like, you could get 5 different readings from someone, from different people. They'll all be similar, but obviously they'll all be a bit different as well because of the approach that they take. And some astrologers may notice certain particular things that others won't. So that's what I love about astrology. It's like everyone's got their own style, and
Yep.
it's good. Some people's styles you like, and some people's styles you don't like, or some people's ways of teaching you gravitate to, and others you don't. Like personally, like as you know, I've learned most of my stuff through Brother Santos's channel and his method of the sine wave and learning it all that way, like the syncretism way.
Yeah.
So like that's my favorite way. But there's also like other astrologers I've watched that I really like there's Dolo the Pilot Man. I don't know if you know him.
No.
Yeah, he's a he's good, he's funny, he's a very lively type of astrologer. You've got like KRS in India.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a woman I used to watch called Rabina Rastaban. She always used to do like the charts of like famous people. And stuff like that. So yeah, I love watching different astrologers and seeing the way that they've learned astrology or interpreted it.
It's so true. I tell that to people all the time too, that you could literally go and get, you know, 10 different readings all in one day, and they could all be just as accurate and be different pieces of information, because this is such a broad topic, you know, it's so vast and there are so many different approaches. And, you know, I got to do a little name drop here, Miss Judith Hill, my favorite teacher as far as medical astrology goes. And, you know, really the psychological process of astrology and breaking that all down. For whatever reason, it's her teachings. You know, there's probably plenty of other teachers that are just as good as she is, although she's been doing it for, I don't even know, like well over 50 years or something like that. But it's her style of teaching that I just vibe with. And I'm like, this is my teacher, you know, and Santos too. They're very different types of teachers.
If I'm not mistaken, you and Judith are both Pisces, right? Is she a Pisces?
Yeah, yeah.
She isn't she? Yeah, because I remember when she did the show with Santos, and her saying they were talking about their placements. I remember her. I know she is a Pisces sun, but I'm not sure about her moon. Do you know her moon?
No, she is somebody who doesn't publish her.
Right, fair enough.
When I went to her, I went to this astrology conference up in Washington called NORWAC, just, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, and met with her in person for the first time. And, after talking for a couple of minutes, I said, yeah, I'm a fellow Pisces. And she's like, shh. And she said, where did you hear that? I'm like, from your lectures. and she realized, she's like, oh, my older lectures. I mean, you can't, but I mean, I'm somebody who's really good at kind of dissecting people and figuring out their rising sign. I usually could do really, really good at that. So I have my assumptions, but I won't share on June's chart.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but I'm saying, as an astrologer, man, that's like one of the things that, how can you that's almost impossible to keep quiet. I mean, you can do it, but I mean, someone's at least got to know your sun sign. Yeah. At least. Do you get what I'm saying? So.
And I'm somebody, I think you and I both, at least I'm pretty sure that you're on board with this. To me, it seems like the world would just be a better place if everybody understood the basics of astrology and everybody knew like a little bit about each other's chart, because things make sense, people just start to how unique and different people are, and how some people, can have these very dramatic emotions, and, and if you understand, oh, okay, they're Pisces and their moon's in Leo or something like that, then it's like, okay, I get it. That's just how they react.
Sorry, Erin, I'm laughing because I remember the scenario of when I was in Cyprus. Someone was moaning about someone else and about, why are they always so angry or like fiery when they talk? And I know this person is an Aries. They're talking about, and they're all sitting there wondering, and I'm just sitting back laughing in my head because I know why. Do you get what I mean? And it's just like, and also finding out a few of like my relatives' sun signs and that, and it was so funny because it just made even more sense.
Yep, totally.
For example, I have an uncle in Cyprus who he's like a TV presenter, and he goes around and does like TV programs about like old historical stuff, and he goes to different villages and he plays the flute at weddings. He's a very known man in Cyprus. And like I said to him, like, oh, so when's your what are you? And he said, oh, I'm a Leo.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
I started laughing like in my face. I was like, oh, okay. Whatever. Like, it was just like, I weren't letting off too much that I was into it, but I was still like asking little questions and that. But it's just like you said, Erin, once you know, it's just, I actually sit here sometimes and laugh because of like knowing why someone's acted a particular way, or I notice full moons. I always notice on full moons, like people start acting all like edgy, and like, I'm just thinking, only if you guys knew.
Yep.
Like, but it's crazy because I know that with me, like, it affects me on certain like placements of my like transit. So like, for example, the most affected ones that I feel like that affect me are when there's transits in Cancer, which is my 12th house, my first house, Leo, and my 11th house, whenever the moon's in Taurus. Oh my God, I really feel that energy.
Yeah.
Like they are the three that I would say that I generally feel like, and I think, I bet it's the moon's here or that or whatever, and it's always right. So they're kind of, I don't know. Yeah, they're the ones that I've noticed anyway, like personally, which those particular transits that affect me, both good and bad.
And totally. For me, it's when the moon transits through Sagittarius, especially if it's like waxing and getting full. But I'm a Sagittarius rising, so it's going through my first house, and that Sagittarius energy and Gemini too are just, they're very like, but I have another funny story for you about that. So just like the day before yesterday, I'm taking care of my friend's out of town, and I'm taking care of her cat. So I drive over to her house, and her father-in-law, who I knew 20 years ago, like knew him pretty well because, group of friends, that sort of thing. And we definitely knew each other fairly well. And he's like, hey, how you doing? He was there. He was hanging out, doing something there. And he's like, how you doing? He's like, so what are you up to now? What are you doing for work? And I was like, I knew this guy. And I'm like, oh God. I was like, do you really want to know? And he's like, yeah, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm an astrologer. And he's like, no, you're didn't believe me. And he's like cracking up. And he's like, you believe in that stuff? Oh, come on. I don't believe you. And I was like, I swear to God, I was like, go Google my name, you'll see I'm not lying. And he's like, I just can't believe you believe that stuff. And I go, you know what? You're born in late December, huh? And he goes, you're early Capricorn. I can tell. I know you're an early, and I didn't know this dude's birthday. And he was just like, just dumbfounded by the fact that I knew that, like, see, I told you. It was,
it's good when you do. I love stuff like that. I used to do that at work a lot. I used to guess people's signs and that. And did you guess by looking at him or by the way he was acting?
But I knew him, like I said, I basically, like, they would have Thanksgiving dinner at their house, and we'd go over there, and I'd see this guy, like, maybe once or twice a year. Like you said, he's like a friend of a friend's dad. It's not like I know him really well, but he was always, kind of part of the gang. That sort of thing. So I knew him then. I also knew that he had his own business that was pretty successful, and just very. He's the boss, and he likes to control things, and that sort of thing. And so I just hit the nail on the head. It was just fun to make his jaw drop. But
yeah, it's good. I love stuff like that when you can, like, prove people wrong. And it almost it's like an ego check for them, if that makes sense. You get what I mean? So yeah, it's sometimes things like that are good. I like it when people get cocky and they get put in their place. Do you get what I mean?
Didn't you just have something like that on what's that app you use? The Clubhouse? Didn't you just recently have something like that happen on Clubhouse? Oh no, that was a different situation. We don't even go there. It was something, but somebody was getting a little arrogant, it sounded like, and you got to put them in.
No, that's right. That is right. They were just getting a bit, like, trying to make fun of astrology and whatever. They were just saying, like, stupid things. And, like, me and my friend Lindsay, who's my other fellow astrologer friend from Ohio, we, like, teamed up on him and just made him look silly. And we guessed both his sun and moon as well. It was right.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, like, he said something to the effect of, like, oh, they probably only did ceremonies like once a year when there was a full moon. And we was like, that would be every month, not once a year. He's like, what do you mean? Well, it's like, there's a full moon every month.
Do you look up in the sky ever?
Like, oh, okay. It's just like, like, just that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to talk, or if you're going to, like, criticize someone, like, with me, if it's a subject I don't know about, I will not say a word. Like, this happened to me in Cyprus. They were talking about something, and they said, "Oh, you're quiet. You're not saying much." I said, "Because I've got nothing to add to the conversation, because I can't join in, because I can't add any experiences in relation to that subject." Like, So I'm just listening to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I will never like start pretending to know about something if I don't. Like, that's the worst thing. Like, you've got some people that are like that. They think they know a bit about everything.
Yeah.
I think that the guy who we was having that particular debate with was a bit more of a like hardcore science person.
Huh? Mm-hmm.
He said to me to something to the effect of, "Oh, we're getting further away from the moon." I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Oh, apparently NASA said that by this year that we're going to be so many million miles, so many thousand miles more away from the moon." I said, "All right." I said, "That's fair enough." I said, "You're sitting here criticizing astrology, but you're telling me that, and there is no way whatsoever that any one of us can prove what you just said. Not one person in this room in Clubhouse will ever be able to prove the statement you just made." So
NASA said it.
exactly.
I said, NASA said it.
So like, that's what I'm saying. I said, like, all that is to me is it's secondhand information.
Yeah.
It's just info, but it don't necessarily mean it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, it's just, yeah, he was just trying to be a smart ass, basically. That's all it was. He was trying to be a smart ass, and me and my friend Lindsay, who's also a Scorpio, we stung his ass, basically. That's basically what happened.
That's awesome. I definitely hold the Scorpio energy in high regard for that.
He was a Virgo sun and Gemini moon.
How funny. How funny. Well, yeah, I think that we don't need to go into too much detail on this, but Mem and I are both in agreement that NASA should not be trusted.
Yeah, I mean, like, what I'm saying is, this is what winds me up about people, is just that, like, they'll rubbish your information, and at least our information is like, we're going by what we can actually see in the sky physically. It's not like we're just making it all up. Everything that we talk about can be visually seen, like in the sky, and we're actually doing it the right way, because we're talking about the astrology from our own personal perspective from Earth.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? This is how we see it. Like, so we're only doing is first-hand information, because we've like, because I was saying to that person, we started talking about the globe and different theories. I'm saying, look, I don't know what shape the Earth is, but I said, the one thing I know for 100% fact that oh, my phone's ringing. 1 second.
Go ahead.
All right. Sorry, Erin. Hi everyone. Sorry about that brief interruption. Yeah, as I was saying, I was saying to the person is that whatever the shape of the Earth is, regardless, what I know I can see with my own two eyes is that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That's all I can verify from anything else I was saying to the person is secondhand information. Yep. Because even if someone has been up to space and seen it, and they've seen it, I haven't.
Right.
So like, you know, it's I just have to either take their word for it or not take their word for it. It's just like a 50-50 thing. But what we do in astrology with the chart is that the chart shows you it works on how we see the sunrise and the sunset. So it is based on reality, whereas a lot of like the science stuff is hard for us to prove. We just have to take the word of NASA.
Yep, exactly. And I just personally I really have a hard time believing a lot of the things that NASA says. And I mean, really, it's just kind of a joke. I mean, the main thing that it all comes back to with NASA for me is this whole thing about, oh, what does that guy say? We destroyed the technology to go to the moon, and it's a painful process to build it back up. I mean, come on, man. Come on. It's just silly. But that's a whole nother
yeah.
show.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is a whole nother story, but at the same time, it's still connected to our subject of astrology and the cosmos. And so like what I'm saying is, by us talking about this, it is still relevant. Like, do you get what I mean? So
Yeah.
I remember, like, also, just to say this one last thing, and then we'll move on to the medical astrology stuff. Yeah, because I remember did like an article when like the lockdown first started about adding a fucus as a sign, and then all the signs will like be moved a month later and whatever. But like, even that wouldn't make, I think that would correspond more with the Indian astrology, like the astronomical astrology, because the thing is, in that system, they move Libra to like start in Scorpio. But that wouldn't make no sense, because then it wouldn't be equal sun, equal day and night, if the sun weren't at the equator.
Right, exactly.
So
but
like,
also that they're basing their system off where, versus Western astrology, we're using the seasons. We're using
yeah,
the
exactly.
seasons, not the constellations. And yes, they are correlated, but it's just different. I've had a few people, make comments towards, some of my stuff online that are, oh, you're using the wrong system. Western astrology has been proved wrong because, things have changed. And I've tried to get the point across to them. We're not using that system. We're using something else, but I just, sometimes I'm like, it's not worth it trying to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. What people don't realize is that, well, yeah, like you said, we're not going by the constellations. We're going by what part of the sine wave that the sun is at that particular time of year creates that energy. So from spring equinox, the first 30 degrees after that will always be Aries.
Yeah.
Whether the sun is physically in Aries or not.
Yep, exactly.
It's just that part is Aries, and then the next, and then from 30 degrees to 60 degrees is Taurus, and then from 60 to 90 is always Gemini, and so on. So that's how the tropical system works. Whereas the other system, like the sidereal system, goes by like precession, and then the different signs at the different every 2,000 years and whatever. But like I've always said, they're both right. It's just two different systems of reading time at the end of the day. Just like, yeah, and I think as astrologers or people, I don't know, obviously people will always gravitate to their own style. Like, I prefer tropical because that's the style that I've learnt with and I've learnt from. But like, maybe people who started on Vedic think, oh, tropical's weird, for example.
Totally. Judith is very, she doesn't really like the term Vedic astrology. She calls it Jyotish astrology.
Yeah, Jyotish, yeah.
And which makes sense to me. I don't think I'd be able to like reiterate what she said and be able to get it.
Jyotish means light, the science of, it's similar, isn't it? Is that what it means?
It's the science of light, which, astrologos, right?
Exactly.
But, it really is both, but personally, I've looked through everyone's charts that are close to me using the sidereal system, and of course my own, and it just doesn't resonate like the tropical zodiac does for me. It just doesn't. And I definitely, like, we've had this conversation so many times, you and I, about how, there's maybe the sidereal systems, maybe a little bit more of our inner world or the spiritual world.
That's how I feel anyway.
Which makes sense to me. That does make sense to me. But I mean, people that are like Santos, because a lot of people know him, he's a perfect example. That dude's not a Pisces. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, I also, but I also see, I know he's got some Pisces placements, and he's, openly spoke about this. It's not like I'm just sharing his information, but which I see those, I see his Pisces moon. But even, when we get into medical astrology and we talk about even just, even just getting into like the rising sign and the appearance of people and that sort of thing, Western astrology just seems to resonate a lot more clear to me.
And that is like a perfect segue. It's like you almost blended what we was talking about into what we was going to talk about. A good, a good transformation thing. But yeah, so like you said, tropical astrology is much more accurate for like people's looks and like the medical side of things. And as you mentioned earlier, that's a part that you've really been concentrating on recently. I mean, I've done a lot of notes. I've got like a lot of notes on medical, and I've done work on medical astrology and like read particular books. And before I actually stopped my last video on the Syncretism Society, I was doing about the cell sorts, and was just about to do a video on different foods that you can eat to obtain particular cell sorts for each sign. So yeah, I've always looked into the medical side of it, but I know you've been doing a lot of studying and studying Judith's work, and you wanted to share a few things, or just new things you found out, or what the process has been of you learning about it and what you've learned about. Be great to hear about that.
Well, I mean, it really kind of also, I mean, astrology just in and of itself, really my favorite thing about astrology is helping people understand themselves, and helping them make sense of, traumas in their life and karma, and, how they psychologically process things, and, all of that. That's definitely my favorite. That's what helped me, through my own extremely traumatic healing process, many years ago, being able to understand astrologically, what was going on in my life, what happened to me here. But my mom was an emergency room nurse for 30 years. And then she went on to teach nursing, and she loved it, but she never knew how to use a computer. So I would actually make up her exams for her when she was, teaching the nursing stuff. And that kind of just always intrigued me a little bit, just medical stuff. However, I have a lot of real issues and concerns with the typical Western medicine that we are using, I think it's really kind of absurd. But when I started to understand, wait a minute, the astrology really does it, there's a diacal man, and each sign rules a different part of our body. And then being able to understand that Saturn constricts things and Mars, inflames things. And then I really started to put things together, and even just taking some of the very minuscule amount of medical stuff that I had, kind of just picked up from working with my mom a little bit, and putting things together, just going, holy crap. But I will say this right off the bat, it's scary. It's really, really trying to, and I always give off a disclaimer, saying I am not a licensed practitioner. I'm not a doctor, and I would never try to deter somebody from going to a doctor. But the medical astrology kind of in, with that to help, when a doctor's like, I can't figure out what's wrong, I can't figure what's going on with this person, a medical astrologer can, you know, go in and say, oh, it's starting in the calves, it's starting in the ankles. There's something Aquarius here. There's probably something electrical going on that's connecting with the heart and that sort of thing. It's more than anything just absolutely fascinating to me, but it's also scary, especially when somebody asks me for a surgery date. I start getting like, oh my God. But I think it's extremely beneficial for people to just know the basics of this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
just going back into Ptolemy's work, you know, he really started to understand this stuff on a much deeper level than I'm at, but it's so incredibly beneficial to be able, especially even just you're using it for yourself, to understand when to cleanse the body versus when to give the body nutrients, and, you know, when your kidneys might be a little more sensitive and certain things that you might have been born with, you know, that sort of thing. That's what really intrigued me. And I still am continuing with it. I started Judith. If anybody's interested in medical astrology, I highly, highly recommend. It's judithhillastrology.com. She has an online academy. She breaks it down. Even if you've never been, you know, maybe you just understand like the basics of astrology, her program is designed for people who are not already astrologers. So she really did a good job there. And what was I going to say about that next? She even has a book. This is the only book I don't have from her, but it's medical astrology for practitioners or something like that, for, you know, naturopaths or even, you know, surgeons, whatever kind of doctor you are, to be able to read this book and just understand like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing heart surgery when we're having a full moon in Leo, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Was it, I can't remember who it was, but I've heard Santos quote this many times about a ancient Greek philosopher who said that if a doctor is not an astrologer, he can't be called a doctor.
Oh, it's Hippocrates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always know that quote, and like, to me, like, it makes so much sense, because like you say, like, when you understand each part of the body is a particular sign, and then like you said, you know that Mars inflames, Saturn constricts,
yeah.
Jupiter expands,
Exactly.
the moon like cools down or whatever. Like, it's just, and you know, in all the humors, like the cold and dry, the hot and moist, and all that side of it. And because you can know that as well, like, because I don't know if you're aware, I'm sure you are, like the seasons have their humors as well. So like spring is hot and moist, summer's hot and dry, autumn's cold and dry, winter's cold and wet.
Right.
So you've got the wax inside is hot and the other side is cold.
You know, so, and that makes way more sense to
dry,
me.
Should I say? Sorry, dry and wet. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. I'm sorry, I needed to correct myself. So winter is wet and so is spring, but one is hot and one is cold. And the same with autumn and summer. They're both dry, but one is hot and one is cold. Sorry, I just had to make that clear.
Yeah. No, I think I just naturally knew it where you were going with it, what you meant. But there's even some teachings that, you know, Judith will show all the different theories, you know, coming from different angles and that sort of thing, and talk about what, you know, if something isn't resonating with her about a certain theory on this stuff. And that's what I was saying, like, I just get it when she says some of this stuff, because apparently, you know, even the air signs were prescribed as hot and dry. And she's thinking like, wait a minute, you know, Aquarius is an air sign and that's the coldest time of the year. That's the coldest sign. And, you know, even it just makes sense to me using the seasons rather than the signs. I usually.
Yeah, as humors. Yep. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yep, for sure. Because like you say, there's an air sign in spring, there's an air sign in this, in like in autumn, and there's an air sign in winter. So they're all going to be different in their own right. Although they're air signs, one's cardinal, one's fixed, one's mutable. So they're all different in that sense anyway, plus the season as well. Exactly. I agree with you.
Yeah. And that's something I've really enjoyed about Judith's teachings. And now it also makes sense to me that this is another, there's so much to medical astrology. And, she even actually takes some of the systems from the Jyotish, like the rays of the celestial bodies and all kinds of, like I said, she kind of just shows them all to us and says, this is what makes sense to me and this is what doesn't. And, I just want you guys to see it all. But oh gosh, what was I just going to say about that? Oh, one of the theories that I found very, very interesting was, say, like each celestial body, and I say celestial bodies because they're just not all planets. They're just not, in fact, the sun and the moon are really in ancient astrology just technically called lights. But so I call them all just celestial bodies because that makes sense to me. But say you've got Mars in Aquarius, okay, then the Mars antenna, your receiver, would be in the Aquarius section of the body, would be in the calves and the ankles. And that's where you, and therefore you make, because Mars is so hot and, it does inflame things. These people can tend to have, irritated, like things that'll happen, they sprain their ankle or something like that. Mars usually influences like something that is like unexpected, and where Saturn is more like this long, prolonged sort of chronic issue. Mars is a little bit more acute and just happens right as that transit triggers something down there. Then people might sprain their ankle or whatever, where it's going to be inflamed. And that sort of thing just shows itself to me almost every time that I'm looking at, if somebody wants me to look at something medical for them and just help them figure out what's going on, problem with the breasts. Do they have Saturn in Cancer? Do they have Mars in Cancer? Which one is it? What's creating, maybe they've got like a lymph thing going on and it's either Cancer or Pisces, something like, I'm kind of putting the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
And also what I try and do is, instead of, like I said, because I'm not a doctor and I wouldn't pretend to be, but being able to show people like, this is what I'm seeing here, this is what I like. Did you sprain your ankle around this time? Maybe this is when it started, that sort of thing. And I show them so that they can start to figure it out for themselves, so that they can be like, oh, that would make sense that it is hot and inflamed. Okay. Or the opposite. Oh, it does seem like it's cold and maybe I need some sort of a heating protocol. Maybe I need to be using, hot compresses on the injury rather than ice, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember I did a few readings for like people around like the same age. It was like around like 87, 88, and they all had like a lot of Capricorn placements, like Neptune in Capricorn was one of them, and they had a lot of Capricorn placements. And I just said, look, this is exactly what I said to the person. I said, look, I'm not claiming to be a doctor or anything, but can I ask, like, do you suffer like with problems with like your knee? And they're like, yeah, how do you know? I'll just be like, because basically, and then I'll explain to them, because as well as like the signs all meaning a certain thing, I say they're all a certain part of the body. So Capricorn is the kneecaps and the skeletal system. So by you having all those planets in there shows me that there's a lot of energy in that area of your body. Exactly. So like I do stuff like that in readings and like try to tell people, but I don't start telling them what to do and like go and take this or go and take that. Although like that's a part of astrology that I love studying. Like there's a guy, what's his name? He does like really good videos. It's got on planetary herbs, how he associates particular herbs
Hmm.
with different planets.
I've been following Matthew Woods, but
Is that the guy? Astrology
are you
herb art.
evolutionary astrology?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Is that
forgot. I always forget his name, but I actually almost enrolled in that program before I
okay?
found Judas. Yeah,
So
they're
you know who I'm talking about, right?
yeah. He actually
Yeah.
got all of his knowledge from Judith.
Oh
That's
wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like watching his stuff. I've done a few shows on it as well with
Oh,
people. I've
awesome.
done a show with with my friend Cosmic, and which was called Planetary Herbs, and then I've done a show with Violet. We
Right.
did a show on like alchemy
Mhm,
and astrology and like tinctures and
mhm.
certain planets being correlated with certain plants, and it's something that I've always been interested in. I've tried to treat myself with like extracts and stuff. Like obviously I have a weak Mercury. My Mercury's in Sagittarius, so and obviously Mercury's like in medical astrology is to do with the nerves and stuff, like the nervous system.
Mhm.
So I find that when I have oregano, it kind of calms me down and cools me down a bit. And I
Yeah.
know that oregano is correlated to the planet of Mercury in herbal astrology.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
See, okay. There's all like Mercury is the green ray, and
yeah,
and maybe even like something like malachite,
yeah,
a green stone, that sort of thing to kind of strengthen the the green ray in your body.
yeah,
It's just like feeling a little secluded. Honestly, even just my Saturn in Leo is, because Leo rules the heart.
yeah,
Saturn constricts
yeah,
and, can calcify and
yeah,
can, make things cold. Saturn's blue ray.
yeah,
And that's actually why I wear a ruby set in
yeah.
gold. That's Leo's, birthstone, and it's set in gold to kind of like warm up that area on my body.
But it's even interesting, sister. I know that all the foods that are good for the heart are all like those like garlic and like spices and all those hot type of foods are good for the heart as well.
Right.
So like it's really interesting that you said that. So maybe you would, if you do have Saturn in your Leo, maybe that's how. So is that what you would have to do to kind of take away that coldness? I guess
Yeah.
give it some heat.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
how. That's what I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's also very interesting. I mean, this is getting a little deep, but my moon and Mars are pretty strongly conjunct in Cancer, and Cancer
Yeah.
rules the breasts, and that's
Yeah.
hot energy. That's hot energy in that zone of my body. So I also have to be careful not to heat that up any.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like this fine line.
Like they're almost swapped around.
Yeah.
If you had Mars in Leo, it would have been
Yeah.
better. But then again, Saturn in Cancer's no good either
Yeah.
because
Saturn,
it's
it's
fallen there as well. Do you get
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's something that I've always been interested in. Like since I did the first show with my friend Cosmic, and we was doing like the associations of like the herbal food with the planet.
Mhm.
So I remember we did like obviously like peppermint is like the moon, and like carrot was Mercury,
Ooh,
wild rose was Venus. Obviously, you had like sunflower was the sun. And then you had like nettles was Mars. I don't remember like a specific one for Jupiter, but it would be something like hot and moist. I'm guessing. Oh, sage is
really?
corresponds with Jupiter, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure it does. And
Okay.
then I know that cannabis corresponds with Saturn.
Saturn, yeah. Isn't that
And
interesting?
to me, that makes a lot of sense because, like, if we know about Saturn and being the ruler of time, and
Yeah.
if you use cannabis, it takes away your concept of time. It almost takes you outside of Saturn's box or his rings. That's the way I
That's
see
interesting.
it philosophically. And I see that Capricorn, which is a Saturn ruled sign, and Aquarius are the two types of strains. So I see that Capricorn is indica because it gets you earth and stone. So, and Capricorn is an earth sign ruled by Saturn. And then I see Aquarius as sativa because it's an air sign. It's about getting high in your mind.
Interesting.
And then Libra is the hybrid where Saturn exalts.
Oh, how interesting. Did you just kind of theorize that and put it together?
I theorized that when I started thinking about cannabis being associated with Saturn. That's my own little theory that I've put together. But there's an actual book called Liber 420, and it's all about like the history of like cannabis and how it's used in religions, and they've got a whole section on Saturn and cannabis.
Wow. Well, you know, I also trip out on that because I would naturally assume, especially as if I was like a rookie to all this stuff, that cannabis would be Neptunian, you know?
Yeah, as well.
And it's just like sort of that foggy energy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But I would say, very Neptunian. Like I totally get that. But I guess that kind of that side of it connects with the Aquarius side.
That's true. But then also, like Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto are not part of like the original seven.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
Something to do
exactly.
with it.
So maybe you're right. So like for example, so in that section, it would probably correspond more with like Uranus and Neptune.
Yeah.
Like in the ones that we can't see, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
But like I mean I've always been into like the associations and like the foods and the planets and which energies they like correspond with and stuff like that, because it's weird, like because I like people say stuff to me and then like someone was saying, oh, I'll get like, oh, I've always got a stomachache. I said, I bet you got Mars in Virgo. I remember I'd done this to my cousin and he checked his chart and he did.
That's the best.
Like, how do you know? I said, no, I just knew.
That's the best. Totally. You know, another one, a medical placement that I see, this is one that I hit it every single time. Saturn in Pisces, people with feet problems. Now, that does not mean that just because you have Saturn in Pisces, you're definitely have feet problems. Pisces rules the feet and Saturn can create chronic problems. But it's if that person already has like a challenged sun, you know, their sun, you know, is not so strong, say it's in Libra or something like that, which is not, Libra's got definitely some good qualities to it as far as medical stuff goes, but it's not necessary. It's, you know, the sun doesn't work so well in the sign of Libra, and say it's challenged, it's, you know, making some hard aspects to Mars or whatever. Every single time I'm like, is there a feet concern, you know, like bunions or something like feet? And every single time Saturn does not, I think he really has a hard time in Pisces.
Yeah, it makes sense, because after Pisces, he doesn't enjoy that top half of the zodiac.
Yeah, totally.
So like, I guess that's his like, it's almost his farewell when he's in Pisces.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm seeing it, like philosophically in my head, because after Pisces, he's got to go into Aries and he doesn't like being in Aries.
No, he does not. And not only that, but Saturn is going to move into Pisces next year. Oof. Yeah. It'll be interesting, but
yeah, I'd rather, you know what, sister, in a way, for me personally, I don't want to wish on things or whatever, but I can't wait till that. I know for you, you're a Pisces sun.
Yeah.
But personally, Saturn's been squaring
Oh,
my sun and my
okay.
natal Saturn and Pluto
Yeah,
these last few years, and I just need it to
yeah.
go away, if that
I
makes
understand. I
sense.
really do. Yeah, that's this
Because
Pluto.
Saturn is currently what degree is it? 25 of,
I think it's actually 23. Let me
because it's retrograding, isn't it, at the moment?
here, hold on just a second, just so I don't give
Yeah.
the information out. Okay. Boom, there we go. Okay, Sky now. Saturn is currently at 23, yeah, 23 degrees
Yeah.
and 8 minutes retrograde. And yeah, and not only that, but he's gonna square Mars hard soon. Oh God, that's gonna be
Oh
intense.
yeah, because Mars is in Taurus.
Yeah,
Mars, yeah.
it's gonna be Mars, Uranus, and North Node all like basically exactly conjunct at 18 degrees Taurus, which we've talked about that. Remember, I showed you that last year in your face.
At 18 degrees.
Yes, I showed you
Oh
that last
shit.
year.
That's my moon.
I know. And I was like, oh no. But it could be really good things. I was just talking, I just made there's a new moon coming up in Leo, and I just made my,
When is that?
that is on the 28th
Of
of July. New moon in
oh,
Leo is it's what, in 5 days now. I gotta get that video posted. But okay, so going back to what I was talking about. So that Mars Uranus North Node conjunct in Taurus is just berserk. I mean, not only that, but one of Judith's books, this one right here, this is Eclipses and You. Oh, it's just such a good book. But she's talking about the North Node eclipses in Taurus, breaking it down. She's got like a couple pages on it, and I mean, she breaks down everything, and I'm just looking at it, just going like, yes, this is so accurate what's going on in the world right now, but it's even more turbulent because Uranus is there, and then and Mars is going to be there. But she very specifically talks about farmlands and cows. And I just saw something like a month ago where there was like 20,000 cows that were found dead, and it sounds awfully suspicious to me, but I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, so that's going to be a gnarly transit. The three of those guys all conjunct in Taurus, and then that's going to square Saturn. That's going to square Saturn, not super strong square, but it's going to square Saturn.
yeah. That's opposing. Not well, again, not directly opposing my sun, but it's opposing my because my natal Saturn is 9 degrees Scorpio,
Okay.
and my sun is 26 degrees. So it's not like a direct opposition, but it's still
Yeah.
opposing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I totally get what you're saying. Like, you're like, I'm just ready for that transit to be done.
Yeah, that Saturn, man, needs to get moving.
So Pluto has basically been very strongly opposing because again, my moon and Mars are very strongly conjunct in the sign of Cancer, and Pluto's been going through Capricorn, and like every time it moves forward and backwards, it keeps coming back and very strongly opposing my moon and Mars. And I'm just like, come on, Pluto, get the hell out of here.
So your moon and Mars are in the later degrees of Cancer.
Yeah. 23 and 26. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing I should bring up, talking about, just kind of touching back on the medical astrology for a minute. I have noticed the transits that seem to be the most prominent, like something really serious going on medically with somebody, seems to be Pluto. Like Pluto's, but if it's a Pluto interaction, it's got to be like almost exactly conjunct. If Pluto, the orb, you know what I mean by the orb, like if something is say 23 degrees, and whatever its conjunct is 26 degrees, that orb would be a 3-degree or
Yeah. So it's not like a direct
yeah,
conjunction.
if it's Pluto involvement, it's got to be like pretty much to the exact degree. And if it gets to the minutes, woof. I'm not kidding you. I have 2 clients. One of them ended up turning herself into like a suicidal like center for like to help her, like she was having intense suicidal thoughts, and she had other stuff going on too. And then another client, oh God, I can't remember if he actually went or not. There was something where he also like basically tried to commit suicide, and he failed. And then I think that he was forced into some sort of a clinic or of sorts. And realizing how intense Pluto is, in the sign of Capricorn, it's so intense. But then also it's going to bring up the nodes. The nodes aren't really, I feel like they're not talked about enough. And the North Node, where energy's coming in, that can just like pour whatever, the energy of the sign that's going through, pour that into that part of your body, and so just thinking about that, we should talk with this Uranus. At least it's in the sign of Taurus, though. Thinking about your moon in Taurus, at least moon in Taurus is like good. It's stable.
Yeah, it is a good place.
Yeah.
You know what you just said, like about North Node being in Taurus and it's what's pouring in.
Yeah.
Makes sense, because I feel like I haven't recently, I can't stop eating.
Oh, wow.
When you just said it just made so much sense to me.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize, yeah.
And it was in Gemini recently. Was it not in Gemini like not long ago? How long has it been in Taurus for?
It's January. Since January. And then, it was in Gemini.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But that's like, I don't know actually, because that's only been like for the last, I noticed, like I said, like Taurus moons, man. It's just like, I don't know what happens to me. And then I look at my phone and I think, oh yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's like it happens to me every month, but then I forget why it happens.
Wow.
And then like I check my phone.
Yeah.
And then, but like I said, out of all the transits, the one I want, just that Saturn.
Yeah.
To get out. Because it's crazy, because it's in my 8th house as well, I think.
Oh, wow.
Which makes sense as well.
Right.
About all the inheritance stuff. And
oh my gosh, totally. Totally. Wow.
Oh my God. It's too freaky. And it's squaring, some of the stuff that's in my 4th and 5th.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is literally like basically exactly. I mean, obviously it was different signs and obviously just different situation, different people. But when I lost my mom, it was an 8th house transit through the sign of Cancer. My moon's in Cancer, and that it was oh gosh, it was the North Node. No, what was it? I think it was the North Node in Cancer, if I'm remembering this properly.
Yeah, it's like today's a Gemini moon, isn't it?
Yeah,
because when my mum died, it was a new moon in Gemini.
Yeah, yes, and mine was in Cancer, and my moon is in Cancer, but it's anyway, and it was in the 8th house. And that 8th house, like just yesterday when the sun moved out of my 8th house, because Cancer's I'm mostly, as you know, I've been mostly using a whole sign house system. I still do Placidus for doing a natal chart analysis, but transits, I'm almost, I'd say like 80% focused on whole sign, but I always go back and look at the Placidus always. But that sun just yesterday, like finally when I moved out of my 8th house, I was like, wahoo! I was so excited. I was just that 8th
The same with me. It's moved out of my 12th
house.
house into my first.
Yep.
So yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny. Like, so I'm just thinking. I imagine like someone random just watching what we're talking about. They'll think like what I'm saying. Like our language that we're talking right now, it's crazy how it is literally a language that
Yeah.
you just got to know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. But like that's what people don't seem to understand about astrology. It's just like you can never disprove something if you haven't studied it for long enough. Like, do you get what I mean? It's like, and when with things like that, when people start studying it, it's usually that they'll see that how they were wrong.
Yeah.
Like with stuff.
Totally. Yeah, I was just actually thinking of that too. I was like, if people don't know astrology at all, or maybe just don't know to the level that you and I do, and like you and I are having this conversation, people are like, we're like cracking up, it's just, honestly, astrology to me, it's really kind of the only thing that does make sense.
Yeah.
If I didn't know astrology and was looking around at what's going on in the world, and not only just right now, I mean, and not only just like, 2020, obviously that was a total abomination, but even just growing up as a child and thinking back into my high school years, like I'm full on Piscean. I've got Neptune very close to my ascendant, and I'm a Pisces. Paying attention in school to me was nearly impossible. But just my whole life, I always was like, I just feel like I don't even belong here. Like, what? I feel like I would like, this was an accident. But now understanding my natal chart, then I'm like, well, of course I don't feel like I belong here. Like, it just, that makes sense to me. I don't, I am. But then being able to apply what's going on in the world now, 100 years ago, 1,000 years, and applying astrology to it and going, oh, okay, it does make sense. Like, this is supposed to be happening. This is all.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I see it with things now. Like, I don't think like, oh, why did that happen? Or you just kind of got to take it and just roll with it and just understand that this is all a part of our journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to suggest that by any means that I'm like immune from the emotions that come, with it. I definitely, I just, as you know, ma'am, I literally like hate leaving the house. I shouldn't even use that word because it's such a strong word, but I really don't like going into public places anymore at all, because it's just gross. So like, and I was also just like, of course I've had this realization before and really kind of meditated on it, but it hit hard the other day. I had to go to the bank, and just walking in there and just people with, double masks on their face and just all this stuff. I'm just going, oh my God. But I'm realizing again that it's not the people that are bothering me, but the energy in it. And also, as much as I don't want to admit this, the parasites. Like, are you on board with that? Like, I just feel like this world is filled with like parasites, parasitic energy, not even just like in our bodies. Yes, all of us carry parasites for sure, no doubt. But just everywhere, like people have just been taken over by things that are not their real self, it seems like.
Yeah. Do you know what, sister? I agree. And it is very frustrating. But do you know how I kind of soften that blow? Is like by understanding that those type of people had to exist for me and you, or for us to be on our journey and come to where we are, and seeing that the world is that way. And like, it's almost in a strange kind of way, I just kind of think, oh, they're just doing their job. Like, that's how I've come to kind of deal with things and understand, because otherwise then like you'll spend like your time just being angry at the world, which is I've been through the last 2 years with that mind state of just being, oh, people and this and that, and just being pissed off with everyone. But at the same time, like we can't let that override who we are and what we stand for and what we're trying to do. So
Of course.
sometimes the best way to kind of look at that is just think, at least I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Like what I'm saying is just like for example, you mentioned about when you went to the astrology conference and you was the only person not wearing a mask. But what I'm saying is, yeah, just that's their, I guess that's their karma, their whatever in life, and as long as they didn't try to make you wear one, then it's all good. But but on the flip side, I understand how frustrating it is, because it's just like because ultimately why we get annoyed with other people is because we put ourselves in their position.
Yeah.
So, and it's like you're getting frustrated for them.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like when you see loads of people wearing masks and stuff like that. I get you, because that's how I was. I'm like, oh, like, can't you see? Or like, why are you being so? But then at the same time now, I'm trying to balance that out a bit and just think,
Totally.
if that's what you want to do, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's hard, but we just got to get through it, and like we're doing now, just connect with like-minded people and people who you're on the same wavelength with. Because like I was thinking about, like, because I'm into etymology, like the word family, it coming from familiar.
Okay.
Family is just like people you're familiar with.
Right.
That's the same like root word, but like, although like with your like worldly family, you're familiar with them because that's who you've grown up with. I also feel like we have like a spiritual or soul family, like who we're familiar with, like how, like, for example, our community and us teaching astrology and teaching each other and learning and speaking. So it's weird. There's definitely, how they say, two sides to a coin.
Yep. Exactly. There really, really is. And yeah, but going back to that, it's like I would never mean to, like, have rude thoughts in my head or anything like that. I don't mean to sound like mean if I'm like, just energy's grossing me out. But going back to it and being able to walk away from the situation, and just like you said, it's like I have compassion for people who are like not able to breathe. And for somebody, I know would sound totally woo-woo and absurd to a lot of people, and that's okay. But to me, it's not only just that wearing the mask on the face is, making you breathe in your own bacteria. It's just plain old not good for you. But to me, it's also like, it's really blocking your spirit,
Yeah, for sure. Of course it is. It's like someone, to me, that's like someone going like that over your mouth.
Yeah, totally. It is. It really is. And I also understand that others, people are like, people who think that, that it's going to save them from getting sick or getting somebody else sick. They're doing it because they think they're doing the right thing, and nothing to be, I don't.
Exactly. That's what the frustrating thing about it is, sister, is because that, like, the intention's good.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It is one of those things. We just have to kind of, do you know what, Erin? Honestly, with that like whole mask thing, and like, I don't know, like in Cyprus, no one was really wearing a mask, and over here, I still see people with masks on, but not as much as I used to. But like, I don't know, with me, I've almost kind of because of what happened to me, and
Mhm.
like with my mum passing and stuff, like all that stuff kind of just, it's like I've almost forgot about it, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
like, yeah, it didn't even cross my mind. Like the only time it came into play is when I had to go to Cyprus for my mum's funeral,
Mhm.
and I had to have a PCR test,
Right. Right. Yeah.
which the guy didn't even do properly.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's like, don't worry about it, I'll send you things. Like, it was so like amateur. I was like,
It's so
I
funny.
weren't complaining, but it just
Yeah.
goes to show that how most of it's just money making scam.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. But then also going back to what I like, being able to make sense of all this by realizing what type of energies we're receiving from those lights in the sky, and all of it, just putting the puzzle pieces together. It's like, oh, like, this has to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's but man, it is what it is. It is what it is. I do think, um I don't think the turbulence is over. I don't think it is.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little another winter time.
Something coming.
Let's see what letter they're gonna pick from the Greek alphabet this time.
Mm-hmm.
Sigma, I don't know. Omega. Have they done Omega?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't know either.
far on that stuff as you are, but yeah, it's I'm sure there's something coming to the surface here. Even just like the inflation, gas prices, like people, it's so bad. Like the gas
Yeah,
prices here.
that's one thing, Erin, in Cyprus, that a lot of people, even over there, in like a small country like that, all they were doing was moaning about how expensive life has become, and
Yeah.
it's literally like affected the whole earth.
Yeah, it has. But that North Node going through Taurus, which rules money, and then also I think Pluto finishing up in Capricorn is playing a big role in it. But Taurus ruling money, and the North Node where energy comes in, it's like, and then Uranus right there, it's like this shock wave of, you know, um, just all finances, banking,
Yeah,
everything like that, and agriculture, the cows, everything. Have you heard anything about that? Like, I don't know if you've really, at least over here, especially where I live, because I live in California, and there's a lot of agriculture. There's a lot of farms, even just driving from, I live basically in the middle of California, like basically where South California meets North California is where I live. And if you drive really kind of north or south, either direction in California, you're going to pass on the main highway. You're going to pass so many dairy farms, so many, um, artichokes, everything, everything, corn, all of it. And there's been all these whoops, all of a sudden that farm burned down. Oops, all of a sudden all these cows were found dead. Oops. And I mean, to me, I'm like, this isn't coincidence, something very
yeah,
suspicious going on here. But then again, tying it into astrological forces and making sense of it, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that has to.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing is as well. Like the system is using it against us,
Yeah, I think
whereas what we're doing with astrology is trying to help you use it for your good. And
exactly.
like that's like another thing that people have to realize with anything in life, whether it's food, religion, astrology, whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
it's always the intention of the person. Everything is a tool.
Yeah.
It just depends on what the person's using it for.
Mhm.
And we can definitely tell you that our mission of sharing astrology is to help people understand themselves and their surroundings better, to give them a more comfortable life and just to learn about nature and how the world works. We're not doing it to look cool or to try and rob people of money or to do bad spells. We're using it purely for white magic.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, like I said, it just changed my life so significantly once I understood just my own natal chart, even just the basics, even if just understanding, Pisces sun, Sag rising, Cancer moon. Of course, I always was like, yeah, I definitely fit the bill for a Pisces. I definitely, everything I'd read about it, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely a Pisces. That makes sense. But then learned about Sagittarius rising and I was like, oh my gosh. And then learned about Cancer moon and I was like, oh my gosh. And then of course I had to know everything else. I was like, I'm infatuated with this study, but it helped me so much that of course, just by nature, I want to show other people like, look how much this can help you, and I don't really like making predictions.
Same.
Sort of sometimes, like if somebody really wants, to I'm just very kind of vague about it, but it's more like to help them understand, like, this is why this is going on right now. And, you might be able to help balance out your own emotions if we take this and blend it with that and find a happy medium, that sort of thing. That's where I love to work with.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
But on that note, sister, just before we go, one last time, let the people know where they can check out your stuff online. I'm going to leave all the info in the description anyway.
Okay.
Just say one more time your website and your Instagram, and also if you have you got any events coming up or any things you're doing?
I do, but this is mostly just for local people. I'm going to be doing a psychic fair, which I would never be like, I want to. It's just the psychic fair sounds funny to me. When is that? I think it is September 6th. This is in Mountain View, California. It's called a psychic fair. If you want to meet me in person, the company who I'm affiliated with, a bookshop, basically, wonderful bookshop in Mountain View, California, is called East West Books. They're putting on this large event and they're all excited about it because they used to throw them many years, not many, that they used to throw big ones. And this was for a long time that they've been putting these big fairs on out, like on the streets of where the shop is. And that, like, technically, like, or literally called the psychic fairs, where they'd have tarot readers and astrologers and, all kinds of people like that. And this is the first time they've been able to do it since 2020, so they're really excited about it. So if anybody if you're in the area, the Bay Area at all, and you want to come meet me in person, I will be doing that psychic fair in Mountain View, California, put on by East West Books. I'm also going to be giving a presentation through East West Books. I just would recommend going to eastwestbooks.org, and you can see all the presentations I give for them. But the best way to reach out to me, really just to schedule reading, is to go to my website, erinwageastrology.com. That's ERINWAAGE. And, you can also send me an email at erinwageastrology@gmail.com. Instagram, that's probably where I'm most active, that and YouTube. And again, if any of these platforms, just type in Erin Wage and you'll find me there.
Yeah. Cool. All right then, sister, thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciated us catching up, and I'm sure we're going to be doing many more shows as time goes on. So until next time, everyone, peace, love and blessings, and leave some comments and let us know if you enjoyed the show or have any questions. Peace.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.